I'm Trenton with Pattern. I'm the Director of Marketing for Pattern Creators more specifically. And if you'll just indulge me for a minute, I gotta justify my marketing spend that I put towards this event and tell you all what we do and who Pattern is. And then I'll hand it over to the way cooler people than me on the panel here. So Pattern is an e-commerce accelerator, and you probably haven't heard of us because a lot of times we're behind the scenes running operations for brands and selling them through all the different online marketplaces like Amazon, Target, Jet.com, Tmall, you name it. And we've been doing that for nearly a decade, and doing it really well. And right now we are the #1 seller on Amazon globally. So like when I say you haven't heard of us, but we're doing some awesome stuff. And some other interesting things about Pattern. So this year we will be closing on or close to $2 billion in sales annually as well, through globally on all of our marketplaces. We ship about 4.5 million units monthly through our logistics service, and we've really dialed in what it takes to grow brands on e-commerce. So I wanted to just tell you a little bit about Pattern, and then more specifically, the team that's here today is with Pattern Creators, which is a company that Pattern acquired about 2 years ago. So raise your hand if you're with the Pattern Creators team. There's 4 of us here, so we're super outnumbered. So Pattern Creators was an acquisition that Pattern made to help brands with influencer marketing. So they acquired a software platform and agency called Current. That's why when you registered for this event, you hit a weird domain, current.tech, instead of Pattern. You're probably trying to figure out like, who are all these freaking brands that are hitting me up right now? So Current is the software that we deliver our influencer marketing services through. You can handle product seeding, payments, pretty much any type of influencer campaign motion that you're thinking about, whether that's one-time payments up front or affiliate motions or full ambassador programs. Our platform can handle that. And then aside from that, we have all of our influencer marketing service options. And then we've also just launched a fully managed TikTok shop service, which we're very excited about. So in that world, we help you set up your shop, which we, if anyone's done it, knows can be like some fun with TikTok every now and then. We also help with content. We're hiring a fully staffed team of content creators in-house. We'll produce live streams and help produce content for your brand. Affiliate executions, we'll take care of all of the outreach, getting affiliates, tweaking that commission rate number until you get a stalwart army of affiliates on your channel. And then we also amplify all of that with advertising. So that's a little bit about us. I'll stop there because I can tell you're starting to get a little bit bored about it. So, and I'll hand it over to the panelists. But thank you so much for coming tonight. Like, it really is kind of overwhelming to me that you all chose to spend time with us. I'll hand it over to Erica. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. We're going to talk about marketing, but I think first we'll introduce ourselves, and I'll start with the format we can all follow. I'm Erica Verink. I'm a writer and a brand strategist, and I run an event series called EV Salon. And I'm lucky that a lot of these panelists are my friends and coworkers sometimes. So let's start with Zoe. Here, you can use mine.
Cool. Is mine on? Can you guys hear me? Cool. Sweet. So I'm Zoe. I'm usually on the other side of these things. I'm a publicist by trade. I work for Rothy's. I run all of our comms, which is so fun. And yeah, I've been in the D2C startup phase for a long time, since like 2016. So I've seen it through all iterations from D2C bubble to where we are now.
Hi everyone, I'm Melanie. I'm the founder of Gia, the non-alcoholic beverage that's at the bar right now. Before starting Gia, I used to work at Glossier, so I've also been with the game for a little bit.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the CEO of Soft Services. We make body skincare. I also worked at Glossier, but a little bit before Melanie, but we got to meet through that network. And Erica, so excited to be here. Your questions, I got a preview, they're really awesome.
Hi, my name is Tatiana. Thank you for having us all. I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Happy V. I have not worked at Glossier before, but Happy V is a women's wellness company. So we manufacture dietary supplements for women's health, and we provide lots of educational content so that women can make smart decisions about their bodies.
I love that. Okay, so let's start by talking about Glossier, talking about where we come from, and maybe one lesson that you picked up early in your career that you see manifest now as seasoned professionals. No particular order. Yeah, Glossier girls have to go first.
Yeah. I think, can you guys hear me? It's really hard. Okay. I think that Glossier was specifically good at customer centricity and always thinking about how the customer thinks. I think sometimes when you start a company or when you're marketing, you think about cost, you think about how to make things happen really, and the takeaway from Glossier and really from Emily was like, how is she gonna feel? We always said she about our customer because it was primarily women. I was like, how does she feel when she opens the box? How does she feel when she comes to our store? How does she feel when she uses our products? And it's something that I definitely have tried to implement.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm not gonna give a Glossier example, that's okay. One of my first jobs was I worked at a photo studio in high school, and I thought I was gonna be like working the front desk, and then they were like, no, you're gonna do photo retouching. I'm like, what? Like, I'm in high school, I don't know how to do this. They gave me like 4 CD-ROMs. For 3 weeks, I just did all the CD-ROMs and like learned how to do Photoshop, and then I was photo retoucher. But I think that like I carry every day. It's just like anyone can learn anything, and not to be like scared when facing a new challenge. I feel like especially in our jobs, but every job, like the world is changing so much. So that's something that I feel like I'm lucky that the owners of that photo studio, I think, were like wanted cheap labor, but like forced me to really realize like, oh cool, I could actually learn something new.
So I started my career on the agency side, and I worked at various agencies and had clients that ranged all the way from H&R Block Taxes, super fun, to the Four Seasons hotels, to Dell Computers, and a lot of clients trickled in between all of those that weren't as great as those that I mentioned. But when you're in an advertising role, you're kind of assigned a client and not necessarily forced to work with them, but you're making that choice. And so on the entrepreneur side, you really get to choose what clients you want to work with, what brands you want to create and you want to build. And so with Happy V, it was a no-brainer when my co-founders approached me and said, we're building a women's wellness brand. I actually got to step away from being assigned a client to choosing who I got to work with. And so I would inspire anybody who's teetering on, what career path they want to take to go through something that, or go for something rather that they feel passionate about. So.
I also started out in the agency world, and I think I saw a ton of brands who were trying to figure out who they were and figuring out what does that look like to the consumer. When we talk to press, what does it look like? And I think my takeaway now is to know your brand promise, know your brand value, and then ladder every single touch point of your brand up to that. And once you have a clear idea of who you are, what you want to be, and what you're delivering, it makes everything else fall into place much easier and gives you this like 360 holistic brand voice that you can go into the world with.
Okay, lovely. And we can't talk about brand voice without talking about soft services, because you guys are the masters at it and the best, and I love a concrete example. And if you guys don't know soft services, you must. The Buffing Bar is a hero product that I was a huge fan of.
Have them here today, or you guys are getting
Everyone
them.
check under your seat for a Buffing Bar.
That's where we have them somewhere here today.
I bring it up because Soft Services just launched a new version of their Buffing Bar called Green Banana, and I'm really hoping that Rebecca can walk us through what that launch looked like. And I'm really hoping we can get POV from you, Melanie, because you were on the gorgeous trip that Natalie was on too, but we don't have a mic for Natalie. Anyway, so let's talk about the launch and high points, what you're really proud of, just your marketing playbook there.
Oh my god, you're just so too flattering. Well, I actually loved what you just said, Zoe, like knowing what your brand promise is. What did you say, knowing your brand promise?
Yeah, and vision and
Yeah, knowing your brand promise and knowing your vision, then I think things become really clear and become really focused. And I think that's something at Soft Services, we always go back to like, what should we do? What do we uniquely do around this specific product, this specific moment that makes sense for us? Like, I think I was thinking of good examples. Go Har World, I think for holiday, did this amazing like recipe box, where they were this box of recipes that were all these lunch recipes that they had been posting on Instagram for the last year, and they were all hand written, hand illustrated. But when I saw that, I was like, this is so brilliant, because like it makes sense for them. Like another home accessories brand doing it, it just wouldn't have made sense, because like, you know, Lila or her like point of view. So when we thought about Green Banana, it was like, okay, what makes sense for Green Banana? What do we want to do here? On a really tactical side, it's like it's our first time doing a big fragrance launch, so we sell direct to consumer. Mostly, we are in Sephora now, but they didn't have Green Banana, so it's like, okay, our customer can't smell this smell. So what's like the modern day version of Natalie Portman riding around Paris in a Dior campaign, which like everyone has seen like 10,000 of those. So that was like one part of what we did. And sorry, I wrote some notes, so like, 'cause we planned this launch over like 6 months.
We appreciate it, okay, we're
Yeah.
taking notes because because this is an incredible example.
So I think like from the packaging of that product, so Buffing Bar is one of our heroes. On the front of that box, there's like a chubby person riding a dolphin, and that's pretty iconic in our world. So then when we got to Green Banana, we were like, how funny would it be instead of a dolphin if he was riding a banana? And honestly, that whole illustration process was quite hilarious, because we had did many versions of the banana. Was like, is it too phallic? Like, is it just phallic enough?
I
And
have the opposite issue at Happy.
We should release the drafts, I think.
oh yes, okay, yeah. And then we did this like fun wrapper where like the type looks like bananas, and then from there we started to make this world of like how could we really bring it to life. And I was gonna say then we went to like, okay, the images, how do we really express the feeling of the fragrance? And we worked with this amazing photographer, Chelsea Craig, and then we did this activation. I think that really spoke to what Melanie was saying, which I also learned at Glossier, was like, what is she feeling? How do we kind of engineer this journey that really like takes them, that facilitates? So Melanie was on our trip, and with that activation, people responded really well to it, because I think it felt like we did a lot of unique touch points, but we didn't like look at, I look at what other brands do all the time, but it was less like, oh, we like what these other brands are doing. It's like, okay, we're gonna be in the Caymans. I had been to that property before, so it's like, what are people gonna be doing? They're gonna be hot, they're gonna be outside. Ooh, let's do like a frozen banana treat, like surprising all day. Oh, and let's do it with Gia, and like we're gonna serve these like chocolate bananas, which is kind of provocative and, you know, like a little suggestive, but this product is fun and sexy and over the top, so like, let's go for it. Or influencers are gonna come and they're gonna be taking photos, and we want them obviously to post about the brand. They need bathing suits, let's make bathing suits. Like the product wrapper looked like a print that would look stunning in a bathing suit, so we kind of did that. And then there was just then we were doing like a green banana drink, thinking about, okay, we're gonna serve this green banana drink, how does when someone take a photo of it, which we all know, like, we want that photo, okay, how does our brand show up? It's like, oh, we could do a drink umbrella with the print again. And so just really thinking about like experience journey, and I think what we tried to do was like, have the brand show up in ways that didn't feel forced. Like I think you all know when you see a photo from an influencer, you're like, they had to post that photo. Like it looks kind of unnatural what they're doing. And so I think that's kind of how we thought through it. Besides activation, I think we just like did things like people can't smell the scent. Green Banana is also a scent that not many people have ever smelled before. So we sent the product to existing Buffing Bar enthusiasts, and we said, hey, describe how this scent smells to you. And we sent an email that was like, you're not gonna be able to smell this, but here's what people like you said. And that was that's been really effective. I was gonna say, I think also in planning that launch, like how we work is we have like plans, and then we are really open to like accidents happening. So we did this large format newsprint that was a part of the launch, and people were like, how do you guys think we're doing that? I love that. We had no plans to do that. We were on set, like for the photo shoot, the images came out, and I saw them, I was like, these need to be a print. Luckily I'm the CEO, so I'm like, I'm gonna find budget for this. And we kind of like, with the designer, I was like, okay, if we can time box this to like a 4-hour project, and she's like, oh, I have a newsprint, a vendor who prints newsprint who can like turn it around in 5 days. And I'm like, great, because she had like designed newspapers before. But that was something that would totally happen on accident, and actually like made so much sense with the brand. I started the launch, and I think again going back to Zoe, it's like us as a team, we had a really strong sense of like what the product was, what we wanted to do. We wanted to express the feeling of it and really give people ways to like make this very abstract idea feel concrete. And then as opportunities came up, it was really easy to be like, yes, no, hell yeah, hell yeah. So yeah.
I love that. Dispatches from the trip, Melanie, anything you want to share?
Just the experience, I think we can, is this working? Or can I
I
not do this?
I think you're, yeah.
Okay, good.
Totally fine.
The experience even, I was very lucky to be invited on this trip, and Rebecca and I obviously are friends, so I was delighted to go. But you know, I think you see a lot of skincare influencers are just not very relatable, and everybody on this trip had like a wide range of different like bodies and faces, and we got this little packet that was like how to prepare your skin for the sun, and the bar, which smells so good, everyone needs this bar. And it was very like, there were a lot of activities to also integrate the rest of her line, and you know, obviously like skincare products only work as much as you use them. So we went boxing, and then we had this kind of like recovery spray, and it was like rehydrating your skin, and there was this like really beautiful banana installation that was extremely phallic in the spa, and everybody would go to the spa and be like, what is happening? And like just throughout the hotel, like she also made sure that all of the guests knew that this was happening. It was really nice. I'll come in the next one.
Yeah, highly recommend. Tatiana and Zoe, can you share like a play from your marketing launch playbook that maybe would only work for having the Arathis that you're really proud of?
I don't know if I have one that's specific to Rothy's, but I do think a general tip that we've seen work really well, and both of you actually know quite well. We tend to find people who organically resonate with our brand. So Rothy's is a sustainable footwear bags, accessories brand. We make things out of rPET, we're vertically integrated, we own our own factory. So it's usually people who care about style and care about the planet. I see your reusable water bottle, thank you, Melanie. But yeah, we'll find people who really resonate with the brand, who are organically wearing our items, and then we'll reach out and start to develop a deeper relationship. And so Erica, I know you and I met each other earlier this year, and Melanie was actually one of our brand ambassadors this spring. And so we just deepen it, and we work with you guys and people like you to create content, to guest edit on the website, to host events. And it's just a really authentic way, and I think our audience always resonates really well, where they're like, oh, I saw Erica post this in like 2022, I'm so happy that she's now working with you guys officially. And that's, yeah, it's something that we just love, and it resonates really well when you find someone who's stoked about the product genuinely, and then they're able to take it and put their own spin on it and extend it to the rest of our channels.
Yeah, I have to agree. The genuine support of the product is key. So we're in a little bit of a different category because with dietary supplements specifically for vaginal symptoms, happy V, happy vagina, our products are ones that usually require a long period of trial before you see results. So it's not delicious, it's not, well, some of our products actually taste pretty good, but it doesn't look nice on your skin, so you have to take it and you have to use it for a bit of time to actually see the results that we market and you know the functional benefits of the product. So in launching, probably our most recent product launch was a stick pack that helps minimize the occurrence of UTIs, urinary tract infections. But what we did was we tied that to what is a relevant event that we can sort of tie this very specific niche product to that event. And in Miami, we're from South Florida, they have Miami Swim Week. So imagine your New York Fashion Week, very much scaled down and for bikinis. But what we found is that women tend to over-index on urinary tract infections during the summer season when they're in bikinis, when they're not switching out of their bathing suits, they're in a jacuzzi, they're in a pool, you guys get the story. So we did our product launch on the onset of Miami Swim Week last year, and we're able to pinpoint specific influencers that we knew were either going to be at the event or that we wanted to invite to the event, send them the product ahead of time so that they can have a trial and like, look, the chances of finding an influencer a few weeks before your event who happens to have a urinary tract infection at that moment is very slim. But this particular delivery format was different than what we had previously, which were capsules. So this was a stick pack. So you dispense it into water, you mix it up, it has a great flavor. And what we did to kind of make it a little more universal is when we were manufacturing the product, we added immune boosting ingredients, we added hydration ingredients. So even if you don't have a urinary tract infection and it's not entirely relevant to you, it's not like the product is going to do any harm to you. And you will reap the benefits of the vitamin C, the B, the potassium for hydration and all of that stuff. So I think finding events when you want to launch your product works great, and especially events that are directly correlated, or you make it directly correlate to your product that you're launching.
How do you think about press with products that have such a long lead time? Like, how do you find editors who have that love for the product?
Yeah, so when we did this turn off? Okay. When we reach out to press or we get any sample requests, we send that out with a handwritten note to literally everybody still. We're like looking to buy a machine that handwrites notes for you actually, because we're sending out so many nowadays to not just press, but influencers, UGC creators, etc. And one thing that we highly recommend is try the product for at least 1 month before you give us some sort of write-up or a review. And we actually had, we don't anymore, but when we launched our brand, our return policy was 100% guaranteed, but you must return an empty bottle. And what that says to us is at least you gave the product the 30 days that's recommended for the product to actually work. And so we found that, sure, we definitely got a lot of empty bottles and they wanted their money back, but, and like, who knows, maybe they threw it down the toilet. We can't, confirm that or verify, but what that shows is that we're really confident in the product. We know that it's gonna work, but this isn't a product that has an instant gratification or that works overnight. And so that was the biggest challenge with our product was you gotta stay consistent on it. And so the editors love that. We had pieces written about specifically our full back money guarantee. Then just people start taking advantage of that. So we had to pull back from that. But yeah, that was a way to combat it.
Yeah, I feel like editors, love that about self-services too. How did you approach it at the beginning? The products work so well instantly and then over time and then even better when they're integrated into your routine. How has that relationship with editors evolved?
Yeah, I think for editors as well as influencers or even customers who leave reviews on our website, we see the product with a time period. We actually have an iPhone app that we developed that people use when they test the products. They take a before photo and then there's prompts like day 1, day 3, day 7, how did your skin feel, document it, and kind of guide them on a journey. I think we think about compliance of our products a lot when we think about the success rate, sustainability. It's like you can make the best product in the whole world. It's the most sustainable, best ingredient. Someone uses it once, really doesn't matter. All of that energy was it was all for waste. So for influencers, we honestly, we give product and we don't hound them to post. And that really has worked for us. We had this amazing influencer named Sarah Palmera. We gifted her smoothing solution and 6 months later, she posted before and after her legs and it was bonkers and it made the product, I think it 20x the sales, over the course of a couple months. But it was just because it was so genuine, and I think that with my team, I even have to bring them in because they're amazing, KPI driven, numbers, growth, and I'm like, okay, yes, but it's about quality, not quantity. And so with editors, we usually see the product earlier, give them lab samples, and just we provide a lot of education around the products.
I love that you're so good at that. Press is how we met, Zoe. And I think Rothy's does obviously such a great job at it, and I'm curious how you would define good press in 2024. What does that look like for you guys?
I was gonna say it's totally changed. So 2016, 2017, good press was getting in Racked or in a Pop Sugar Roundup and really just driving brand awareness through those channels. And now when we think about press, it's more amplification, it's 360. It's all right, how do we partner with an editor who maybe has a social following? So they'll write a story, they'll review the product, then they bring it to their own channels. And Erica is amazing at this, and it's really fun.
I'm wearing
follow.
Rothy's right now. So.
I didn't ask her to, she just did. But yeah, so it's really taking this 360 approach. But I would say for us, press is really helpful for brand awareness, and it's also really helpful for customer research. So if you're a consumer and you hear about a brand for the first time and you're okay, I saw Erica wearing it at this panel, I've never heard of them before, you go on TikTok, you get served an ad and you're what's their deal? we find that people will usually go to Google then, they'll do a little research, and the function of press for us is to go a little deeper on our brand mission, our product, what we offer, kind of reviews. Like we just had a review in Harper's Bazaar about an espadrille that we launched, and she was like, I wore it all up and down the Amalfi Coast on my honeymoon, and it was great. And she talks about comfort, materials, all of that stuff that we can say it until we're blue in the face, but you're not going to believe it unless you have this third-party verifier being like, trust me, I brought it to Europe, I wore it, it was great, they were great. So I think it's like threefold awareness building. It's a lot of getting into the dirty details about your brand and what you stand for, and then it's also just amplifying, like with tastemakers and stuff, that work that you're doing in press. So success is needle-moving features for us. And then also this new form of media too, which is the TikToks and the Substacks and all of that.
Were there any early press pieces for Gia that like shifted things for you guys?
Definitely. So we had a very chaotic launch because we were supposed to launch on April 1st, 2020 in 50 restaurants around the country. And it actually feels very special to say this because we are turning 4 this week, and we're doing a giant aperitivo in 50 restaurants around the country. So everybody that is going to some of there's actually almost 60 restaurants. Like tonight, tomorrow night, and the night after, we'll get like a free Gia Spritz and like these stickers and the postcard, and it feels like how we always wanted to launch. So it's pretty cool. But I remember we pushed our launch. And we basically launched online, and I remember like we 1,200 bottles of product. That's like the smallest batch of Gia you could ever make, and it was all the money in the world that I had ever seen. And so we were like, okay, these bottles are selling, they're selling, and finally, like after like 2 years working on Gia, and it was like 2020, so I hadn't really seen my family, like go home to France to see my mom. And within 2 days, we got a New York Times piece in the Wall Street Journal. It was Julia Bainbridge and Lane Florheim, who's amazing. It was like the craziest write-up we sold at Gia immediately. I took the first plane back. It was amazing. It was like, the first piece was very special. New York Times moves product. Like there's just, the first time people read about something in the New York Times, there's like, you'll never get that moment again. So, and it was about how grown-up aperitifs are bitter, and we were there alongside alcohol, which is really important for us because we're very flavor forward. So the first message is not that we're non-alcoholic. The first message is, we're bitter, we're real ingredients, we're like an Italian Amaro. And then the Wall Street Journal piece was just like a dedicated feature. It was like the best thing ever. So yeah, it was very special. It put us on the map in a way that like I think we would have taken months otherwise.
Do you have a press piece close to your heart, Tatiana? Sure.
Oh gosh, we've had quite a few. I will say one of our more interesting coverage pieces was how we figured out the hack to not get our TikToks taken down. So when you're in the vaginal care space, there's a lot that you'll get flagged for, and running ads or even just organic posts became really difficult. I think now finally the platforms are starting to ease down a little bit. But in the beginning, you couldn't say vaginal health, you couldn't say bacterial vaginosis, which is one of the main things that our products helps to subside. So we did the hack that now everybody knows, but at the time, this was 5 years ago when we launched the brand, so we were vaginal with an at for the A sign. And then instead of SEX for sex, we would write SEGG or SEGGS. And so that piece I think was so funny because we expected the product roundups, we expected and like we ended up getting such great coverage over a hack that we had to be able to not get our products taken down from social media. So that was interesting.
Do you have advice at large for anyone who's working in an industry like women's health that changes so quickly all of the time? What would you say?
Yeah, so I would say that, especially in our category, we say that we want to be the brand for every step of a woman's journey through life. So everywhere from ideally when you get your first menstrual cycle, or even infants, get UTIs, we're not there yet. We don't provide baby products, but all the way through to peri and post-menopause. And so understanding all of those different audiences are really important, but also understanding how all of those different audiences generationally change is just as important. And so Lydia DiCapua here, she manages our customer experience and our retention program with loyalty. And so she does a great job of serving our customers and understanding what do they want to hear from us? What do they like about our products? What things do they want us to change? That helps us orient our marketing messaging to make sure that we're staying relevant. And then I'd say the other thing that's really important is always talking to your customers. So we have rolled out this entire customer testimonial interview process that we haven't done anything with the content yet. We just hold this content, but what that does for us, I shouldn't say that. We've done lots with the content, but we haven't done is publicize it. What we've done is use that content to inform our next steps and to understand, you know, generationally, how are these customers thinking differently? Believe it or not, 5 years ago, people didn't want to talk about vaginas on social media. Now we have one of our last viral TikToks that blew up was a vagina puppet, a vulva puppet that we used to explain a little bit about the anatomy of the vulva and the vagina. And so it's so crazy how as trends change through, you know, a couple of years, it opens doors for you as a marketer to do and try new things, which is really cool. And I would say, yeah, just continue to always do your research and to understand your customers. That's the most important thing. I think, everybody's saying the same thing up here.
Yeah. Have you noticed a similar trajectory in the non-alc space since you launched 4 years ago?
Definitely. Well, first of all, our Facebook used to flag every single one of our ads as trying to promote alcohol to minors because it was just a bottle. So we still have issues with that with the algorithm. Getting on TikTok Shop was an absolute nightmare. It took us 3 months. We have really
Still
fast
is
forward.
for us.
Yeah, it was insane. And maybe one of the hardest things we've done was setting up the on TikTok Shop. And by the way, if there are any people who are really good at TikTok here, please come see me because I think we've sold 3 bottles on there since.
See both of us, please, because vagina space, we're having the same
Yeah,
issues.
it's like not, but the conversation really, and the reason why I started was because everyone was always bothering me about why I wasn't drinking, and I feel like in New York and LA, it's like not even a thing anymore. There's a long way to go in other cities, and specifically non-coastal cities. We hear that feedback a lot from customers, but the conversation has completely changed now, where it's like individuality is it, you know?
I love that. Okay, we're gonna do one quick rapid fire for everyone and then we'll open it up for questions from you guys. I think we should talk about losses because it's fun to talk about wins, but I think we can all learn a lot from losses, or we can say missteps if that's easier to talk about. So if you could explain or tell us a story about a mistake you made and the lesson that you carry with you today. Marketing, or it can be personal, or
I can go. So, UGC creators, we gotta get UGC creators on board. And so we really didn't know even where to begin with that. And we did what I think most co-founders do. We went and found an expert in UGC creation and we hired them to help us make our content with these, people who are just trying to make a living, do their jobs, etc. But as I mentioned before, our product is very niche and it's very specific, and so you have to understand it and you have to be authentic when you're reviewing it. And what we found is that we received through this vendor a lot of very scripted and inauthentic sounding content. And it was a huge investment for the company to go that route, but we felt like we were going with these experts, and the case studies that they shared were very successful, and it probably worked for a lot of their clients, but in our niche market, it wasn't working. And so we spent quite an amount of marketing spend, both on the content creation side and on the paid media side, only to then discover, well, that's not what we need to be doing. And so we decided to roll out an in-house UGC creation department. And we're already starting to see better success with that content than we did with the other content. We're not rolling out the volume that we were before, but it's quality content. And so I think that's the biggest takeaway from this lesson is, while we hired an expert, we also have to understand our category and how our product works and is specific to our customers. And so you might do great with hundreds of new UGC creator videos every single week that you're plowing into different channels, but you might do even better with just a handful that are really authentic, really speak to the brand, and that the user, nowadays on social media, you can pinpoint when something is scripted. I mean, I think we all can. We look at some ads or we look at some posts and we're like, yeah, that person hasn't even opened the bottle. I bet the safety seal is still on, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I would say that that was probably our most recent loss and lesson from that loss.
Love that.
I'm still thinking.
Okay.
I'm still thinking.
Okay. I think that for me, it was less of a misstep and more just a lesson in pivoting and being okay with pivoting and understanding that you might have strongly come out of the gate saying one thing and then being like, oh, I'm actually gonna walk that back and rethink it. And so like 2016, 2017, when Rothy's launched, we were among a sea of other brands that were like, we're cutting out the middleman. We're D2C, this is the way of the future, we're so bullish on this, like we're leaning in. And now, fast forward to 2024, when we're trying to reach more customers, we're trying to be super convenient, we're trying to grow brand awareness and become a household name while still being sustainable. We were like, all right, we need partners, and that looks like wholesale for us. And so this year was the first time that we ever dipped our toes into wholesale. We launched on Amazon with a few select SKUs like products, and then we also dipped our toe into it with Anthropologie as our first wholesale partner. And it's been wildly successful, and we're thrilled with how it's been going, and we're growing the program, but it definitely was an internal conversation of like, okay, for so long we've been this D2C, like doing it yourself is best kind of messaging. How do we walk this back? And it turns out that it's okay to be like, oh, we messed up and we made a mistake, and it turns out collaboration is great, partners are helpful, and different stages of the business require different things. And our customers are excited that they can get us in more places that are convenient for them. So all in all, I think it's just a powerful lesson in pivoting when it's okay to pivot, and that's okay, and you don't have to fret about it too much.
I'm trying to think of a good one to talk about. I feel like most of our losses are honestly way more upstream in product development. Usually, like something is, yeah, right. Like it's like, okay, we need this product for a holiday. We told Sephora we're gonna have it. We have the placement. We're evaluating the final samples, and I'm like, I just don't think it's great. And then kind of sitting there being like, am I being crazy? Is it actually good enough? But I think that's something that whenever we reach that moment, it's like, it's really not worth it. Then you think about everything we've talked about. Like the only way I think everyone here is able to talk with such confidence about marketing and influencers is like, you know the product is amazing, you know what it does for someone, you know it's special, and then like everything else kind of can much easier come out of that. So recently I've had to do that and call the retailer and be like, hey, this product is supposed to be ready for holiday. We need to we just need more time, it's not good enough. And they were fine with it. And actually like silver lining, it's like we're launching another product, and the reality is my team would have to be double the size to launch two big things, like all in the same quarter. And it was like, yeah, we were already like running around with our heads cut off trying to do the packaging at the same time. So I think like someone out there is like, like looking out for us. So I just, and I think like with customers or partners, it's just like being honest. I think something everyone here is talking about is like, I think like customers are smart, and if you treat them that way, like they will like reward you back with that loyalty and that understanding. And I think like there's so many different things that have happened at some services where it feels like scary because it sounds scary that a company would do it, but then you're like, if a company told me this, would I believe it? Like with this, am I able to answer every question a customer has? And if you feel sure, then like it's gonna be okay. And I feel like all the examples here are like, yeah. On the other hand, if you try to trick a customer, they're gonna like see right through it. So that doesn't work.
Sniff it out, 100%. I think the customer is really smart. My story of loss is more the story of like the ones that didn't happen on the product development side, because I feel like
The graveyard.
the graveyard, there's like such good skeletons in the graveyard. And I mean, I think that the founder personality really like impacts the team, and I'm someone who's very bubbly and very creative and has a lot of ideas and wants to do a lot of different things. And when that type of energy is fueled with an amazing team that like loves what they do and some momentum and response from the customer from novelty, there's definitely a tendency to get scattered. We definitely also make Nutella and it's selling really well, but it's like, we can't remove it because customers love it, but it's also like we have beverage investors that are like, what are you doing? And I had some more ideas for things like that we could do and that we went pretty far developing and we're so excited about, and just had to we have to focus on our core product, we have to go after new markets, we have to make sure we bring Gia to new places, like Gia, the original aperitif, not, and so I think that sometimes the loss is like letting go of things that like could have been for the sake of the business, even though I think we want to surprise and delight our customers always, and like thinking about how year 4, year 5, year 6, like your customer is also the one that is just learning about you and not the one that's been on the journey and you're constantly trying to kind of deepen this connection with, so it's a balance.
Does everyone have Nutella under their chairs?
We always sold out too.
It's on our site, it's really good.
Okay, let's take some questions. If you want to raise your hand, I can repeat it to our panelists. Yes.
I have a question for you. So you mentioned that you guys launched in Sephora. So my question is, how did you guys drive traffic to Sephora? Is there something that you did that was out of the box on socials that let the audience know, or your audience know, that the product was now in Sephora?
That's such a good question. I feel like I'm trying to find that answer every day. I think Melanie, with being at Target, it's the same thing of, okay, you've talked to your audience for so long in this very intimate way, and this is like, there's this one channel. Now, how do you also let them know that they have the choice to go to Sephora? I think as much as we can, we try to think about it from the customer's perspective. It's like, how does this benefit them? So you can try it in person. If you need it the same day, you can go get it there. Just trying to like make it truly benefit led. But yeah, I think definitely with retail, I would say that's something that, as from D2C brands, as you move into retail, I think that's like a big, exciting learning journey for us. Is like, how do we drive traffic? How do we support the retailer? How do we like divvy up our marketing efforts for influencers? Even it's very important for us to have influencers say, "I love this product, and now you can buy it at Sephora." And kind of how do you make that genuine? So we're doing actually like a big campaign this summer about buffing bars now at Sephora, and there is like the kind of classic product testimonial at the end. They'll say it's at Sephora, but we're concepting some content ideas of like, actually one of the girls from the trip is going to be in LA, and so we're gonna have her go be like, she's at the beach and she's like, oh crap, I forgot my buffing bar, and like she drives same day to get the bar. So it's like kind of just again making it more value driven than, and like again believable. Like why would, for a customer, why would they actually care that you're at Sephora? Yeah, that's kind of how we're thinking about it right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Unless, do you want to talk about how it's going at Target? I'm
Yeah,
proud
it
of
was a
you.
good segue. Rebecca and I had dinner the other day, and she was telling me about Sephora, and I was like, your Sephora is my Target. So the big box retailer thing is really hard because it's a huge capital investment. We just launched on 700 Target shelves, which is obviously amazing, but also extremely scary. It's like 43 states at a time. It's like our biggest distribution network by far. We had to onboard a new distributor. The product took so long to get on the shelves. I'm like, where is it? And you're like, it will be there in 2 months. And I'm like, but where is it right now? And because we make it, it's on a warehouse, we ship it. So it's hard, and it's hard because we've had a product that we've only talked extremely positively about in terms of the quality of our ingredients, and everything has been truly about quality. We love the experience, we luxurious, even though we want the can to always be less than $5, and suddenly it's like a discount product, and we literally don't have enough money in the world to market this in 43 states. So we partnered with our competitors, and I think it surprised a bunch of people, but at the end of the day, like, the people that we think are the competitors of Gia are the alcohol brands. We want everybody to know that it's okay to drink, and so like Target reached out to us a few years ago, and when they did, we knew that if we were alone on the shelves of Target, we wouldn't move. So I basically offered to introduce them to some of the non-alcoholic bottle shops out there to do a dry January pop-up with all the brands, and that was quite surprising to a lot of them, including my investors, but I think contextualizing that it's okay to do dry January, to not drink, to take Sunday to Thursday off, to do all the things, really helped. And so last week we actually hosted an event with Kin. Jen, the founder, is amazing. She's launched her company, I think, over a year before I launched mine. She has been tremendously helpful along the way, and at the end of the day we want people to kind of like try them all and see which ones they like best. So we hosted this kind of cocktail party in LA, which we missed by a day, but it was really special. And even though it was surprising, I think because customers really resonated with like the brands are actually supporting the same customers in the mission. And then the last thing I'll add is I was very pleasantly surprised. Like whenever we do a big change at Kia, in 2021 we did a price increase. I like was sweating about this price increase for 2 weeks, and I was like, we just do a text email from my email. The reply will just be in my inbox, and I was reading like every response, and it was like 2 negative and like 150 positive messages from customers. They're like, we get it, it's a good product. Like people didn't care, and I had been like really agonizing over this. And so when we launched at Target, we did the same thing, and like customers were so stoked about the growth of Kia. And I think that because we've tried to be so intimate with customers, because we've built these very personal connections with our customers, they're like really in on the journey with us. Part of the birthday celebration and the Target celebration was at my house, so we really invited like customers to my house, and it's just like about, again, like making it feel like we're not, because we're at Target, like just means that like we're growing together.
Amazing. Okay. Yes. Yes.
I have a question because you mentioned the price change, and I think over the past month I've seen a few other brands communicate that they have to increase their prices. How did you communicate that to your community and to the customer? If you can just speak about that.
For sure. So it's interesting because we're talking about price increase now. I think in general a big hurdle for the non-alcoholic category is just how expensive it is, right? Like you're compared to a 99-cent soda and you have a $4.99 can of Kia. It's very difficult if you're on 700 Target shelves. In 2021, we had this issue where there were all these crazy supply chain issues within COVID, and specifically the cost of transportation of both getting like aluminum cans into the country, but also transporting the product, and shipping rates that like doubled or tripled. So like truly we were losing money on every can. And so we were extremely transparent with our customers about why we made this change, but we only had the bottle at the time. But the cost went up by $5, so it was $33 bottle, it's $38 now. We honored everybody that was on subscription. We made sure people that drank it a lot, it would still be affordable for them and we wouldn't alienate anyone. So we made it so that the cost of transportation would be offset. And so if you bought a single bottle, you had to pay more. But if you already loved it and like you bought a 6-pack, we actually reduced it more. And we explained like how we made the decision basically, which I think people really resonated with. I know now the cost of inflation over the past few years has obviously really impacted businesses, and so we're talking about it. We actually partnered with Target. It was another decision. We could have gone to another retailer, and we partnered with Target because they suggested subsidizing our product. So Gia $16.99 for a 4-pack at Target is by far the cheapest price, and we wanted to bring it to more places in that way. But we had to say no to others as a result. And so I think it's just like, again, customer centricity is like how are they gonna feel? And so it's like, if they feel cheated, if they feel like we're profit mongers, if they feel like all these different things, that's very negative. But if they feel like they're supporting a business and they know what they're paying for, then I think it can be much smoother.
We did something similar with Happy Bee where we reformulated our product. So actually just the product itself at cost was more expensive. It was a better product. It had more probiotic strains, more clinically studied strains. And so we communicated that to our customers privately on email or our owned and operated channels. And then for those that had been subscribed with us since the beginning, we gave them the option to be grandfathered in. And we still have customers grandfathered in, I believe, from our very first launch of our first SKU, and we changed the product completely. But they still get that original price, and they will until they decide, if they decide to unsubscribe.
I love that. Let's do 2 more questions. Yes.
Hi, so I have a question for Melanie. How did you communicate to your customers your Shark Tank show? And because you were very open about the cost of the product, and if you received any negative feedback from customers after that?
So Shark Tank was interesting. It's interesting for several reasons. The first one is so often you have a team of producers that will like try to source some companies, or some companies can kind of buy it themselves, but the process from audition to airing can be very long. So for us, we got in touch with them in January and we aired in July. And during that time, because you never know until the last minute if you're going on a show, we raised a big round of funding, which made our need to go on Shark Tank to get funding not as needed. And the other thing is you're on that stage for an hour and a half, but they cut it into a very short episode, so sometimes you don't see all of the questions. I think in beverage it's pretty well known that it's like a third, we're unfortunately completely like subject to most alcohol regulations. So it's like you have a distributor that will distribute the product to a retailer, and then the retailer will also get the cut. So anyone in the beverage industry will actually like look at our costs and be like, oh, that's very high. We definitely have the most expensive ingredients out there. And so we didn't get any negative, for that, but when we promoted, we got as much positive from promoting the episode and the fact that we were going on Shark Tank as we did from actually going on Shark Tank itself, which again speaks to kind of like how supportive customers are. I would say in general, like our customers are amazing. We get like very little slack for things, but yeah.
Okay, do we have, yes.
For Rothy specifically, you talked about it being like a sustainable brand, and that's a big part of the ethos. Is that like marketable anymore, or is it like changing and you're moving away from sustainability as like a marketing thing, and it's just more part of like how you do the product?
So the interesting thing about Rothy's is that it was built sustainability in our DNA from day one. The founders went to a factory in China and they said, no, we're not doing it the way the other footwear people have done it. This is not how we want to run a business. So they built a whole new factory. They created the first knit shoe, which is pretty cool, and it's zero waste manufacturing, all of that. So I think because the founders feel so passionately about sustainability, and because it is so core to our DNA, it will always be part of our DNA, and we'll always talk about it. Interestingly, it's been easier to talk about it lately. I think when we launched in like 2016, 2017, the minute someone heard sustainable fashion, they were like, oh God, get that hippie shoe away from me, like I don't want it. And so everyone at Rothy's kind of sat down and they said, all right, we need to create a marketable product. Women at the time, now we have men and children, but women want to wear that's comfortable, stylish, and by the way, it's sustainable. Now we're seeing kind of the opposite, where people will be like, oh, I like your shoes, and then the response is always, oh, thanks, they're made from recycled water bottles. So it's been almost like a flip, and it's easier now to talk about sustainability. And we've actually woven in advocacy now into our entire brand ethos. It was something that internally we felt really passionate about. And luckily we have a CMO who is super into it, and she's like empowering all of us to go forth and do what we want to do. And so it's been growing, I think, as a communication channel for us to talk about sustainability, but it's always really been there from day one.
They're also the most comfortable shoes in the world.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move into like a chatty happy hour situation. So grab a Gia, come say hi. Thank you so
Wait,
much.
before we end,
Yeah.
I have one thing.
Okay.
We're hiring a creative project manager. I feel like some people in this room either are
Let's do a live
interested in them or know someone. So that's my plug. If anyone else wants to
Okay,
plug
let's do a
before we
live
end.
LinkedIn. Anyone, if you have jobless states, now's your chance. Do you need?
Sorry, just me.
We're hiring for a head of growth, very analytical role. Yeah, not again still, it's been a few years.
I'm saying like,
Oh yeah.
good audience.
Yes, for sure. We talked about this role because we've been borrowing that of course from self-services to help us with stuff.
I'll come talk to you at some
So
point.
yeah, if you'd love to build a dashboard, this is not like a sales growth, this is not like a brand marketing growth, this is a like numbers growth, like only analytics and yeah, performance.
Life cycle manager.
No, I should have checked with our HR team.
We'll take a CA if anyone's in the market, but we'll talk later. Join us in the back. We're so happy you could make it, and thank you to Vesper. Do you want to say something? Oh, Trent, do you want to say something?
Well, I just need to make sure I wrote you all a personalized thank you note, and then I realized I had no idea where you're gonna sit. So I just want to make sure you get your note.
We're gonna
So if you
compare
guys can
notes.
exchange notes. That's okay. I can do that. I just want to make sure you walk with your note. No, thank you so much.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.